Job done here between Storm and Sneak and Show. We saw Peter a little bit earlier. He actually lost when he was on camera, but that's about the only loss he's had this weekend.
I think so. I mean, he really ran through this tournament, first overall seed, our last undefeated player. We only had him on camera once, and that was a loss he took to Rudy Briscoe in round 11, but shook it off, and first overall seed.
Peter taking a mulligan here. It looks like he's going to go down to 6 cards. Merriam with his Storm deck, focused and ready, as this is a big opportunity for him. If he wins this tournament, 25 Open Series points, and likely #1 overall for Season 1.
It's a huge jump. No two ways about it.
We saw Lissette make that jump last weekend after the win in Columbus. And those players are battling between Lissette, Kevin Jones, Ross Merriam, and Jim Davis. Johnson going to take a look at his hand. Does not look thrilled. It looks like he's going to keep it. #1 overall seed, so he's on the play here. Let's see how our semifinals will begin. It's a polluted Delta. And just a passing of the turn. Merriam will draw. And he will sacrifice his polluted Delta, go down to 19 in the process. And it's an underground C as usual here for the Storm player.
And the real secret to this matchup from Peter's side of the table is not Emrakul, it is Griselbrand, because he can easily show and tell in Emrakul, pass the turn, and not untap.
Yep.
Griselbrand gives him the opportunity to draw a bunch of cards, find some force of wills to carry over to the next turn, and then kill Ross.
That's a preordain here, and that will resolve. So Merriam will do a little scry action. And Ross, happy with his configuration, will take his card and pass the turn back over to Johnson. Johnson going to sacrifice his polluted Delta. I imagine a volcanic island. He does have some other options available to him.
Yeah, he can be very liberal about getting non-basic lands here, because no wastelands, of course, in Ross's list, nothing to punish him for it.
After he does get his cards all situated, there is the volcanic island. I do think this one will be pretty close. It is all about speed. There is a little bit of interaction on both sides of the ball, though.
The games will be, I think, in the 50-50 range, which makes them close in that sense, but there's not going to be any interaction here. I mean, it's one person getting to do their thing while another person watches.
There's a preordain. Overmaster, sneak attack, the cards Johnson's looking at. Overmaster card doesn't play a big role in this particular match. It does cantrip, so that's always nice, but the uncounterability of the next sorcery, not a big deal given that Merriam does not have counter magic. Both cards going to go to the bottom. Johnson will take a draw.
It is a card I like in the deck a lot, though. It's a low opportunity cost way of beating counter spells, which can be challenging in certain games.
This is a ponder from Merriam. That will resolve, so he'll take a look at the top 3. And we'll see if he likes what he looks at as he moves some cards around. He's happy. Keeps with the ponder, takes his card. Here's a volcanic island, here's another ponder. That one will resolve as well.
And Peter seems very content to just sit on Flusterstorm. It's a good piece of disruption here. And if Ross leads off with Cabal Therapy, he's more likely than not to name Force of Will, because there's 4 copies of it, than the 2 Flusterstorms. So Peter taking his time here, in a relative sense. I mean, he's still trying to kill on turn 3 or turn 4, but he does have a good piece of protection here.
I suppose as much as Sneak and Show can take its time.
It's a slow game. We've entered the mid-game. We're officially there. 5 total turns between these 2 players. Gonna have to get a judge watch for slow play.
Johnson searching up a volcanic island here on Merriam's end step. He's down to 18. Let's see what he can put together on his 3rd turn. Picked up a copy of Sneak Attack. Here's a preordain for him. Unsurprisingly, both these players just cantripping away. City of Traders and Misty Rainforest, the cards Johnson's looking at. One on top, one on bottom. He'll take one with him. Misty Rainforest, the weapon of choice. And he's just going to pass the turn back. A Taxian Probe. So Ross is going to have a good idea of what's going on in the hand now. It was an Ancient Tomb. That was the card he was holding back. Now here's the hand. A Sneak Attack.
Not playing the Ancient Tomb there is really surprising. I mean, it means that any land next turn is a kill.
Yeah, I'm very surprised by that decision. Holding back Ancient Tomb, when next turn, if he draws land, as you mentioned, he can go Ancient Tomb. You know, he could, if he has Ancient Tomb in play, he plays Sneak Attack and activates it.
Yeah, I mean, Emrakul hit you down to 2 with no permanence to play is not necessarily game over for Ross, but well, I don't know why you would want to cut off that line of play.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what concealing that information does.
Right.
Here's a Ponder. Ross going to shuffle.
And I'm sure Ross is a little befuddled as well. There's no risk, there's no counters, there's no wastelands, you know.
It just strikes me as a play that's too fancy.
Yeah.
Trying to, really take your opponent by surprise by the fact that you can do this all in one turn. It's like, well, that's the expectation.
Yeah.
That if what your deck does is, grandiose. Mystery card coming here from the Ponder. So that's done resolving. You have to imagine Merriam's looking for some sort of discard spell.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one piece of disruption he's got to beat. Any Cabal Therapy or Duress will do, assuming that he's got the rest of the hand rolled up.
There's Lotus Petal. And he'll just pass the turn back. Johnson going to draw. He's going to play a Brainstorm now. So 3 cards coming here for him. Force of Will and Ponder among them. So he'll have to put 2 cards back.
Picking up Force of Will, a huge deal, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it already feels like Ross is stumbling a little bit here. And being another counterspell that he isn't aware of, that's going to be tough.
He'll deploy the Ancient Tomb now and pass the turn back. Merriam will draw. Here's Cabal Therapy. And this should be interesting. A lot of the time, Merriam has named Force of Will with this card over the course of the weekend. And we'll see if he continues to do so here. Even though he knows his opponent has Flusterstorm in hand. The hand will be revealed. And he's going to go with Emrakul here, it looks like. So going to take away one of the ways for Johnson to get the job done here. And what that's also going to do is shuffle Johnson's library.
Yeah, one of the cards that Johnson put back was his Sneak Attack.
Yeah.
So now he is without a thing to put into play and a thing with which to put it into play.
And you see the Force of Will and the Flusterstorm over there for Johnson. I think maybe he was thinking, well, he'll probably name Sneak Attack or he'll name Force of Will. Either he's going to name Sneak Attack or Counterspell.
Right.
With the chance that he'll name Emrakul, and Ross really just blew him up by doing that.
Yeah, that was a really impressive play.
So now Johnson gets to shuffle his deck, which a lot of the time that's a good thing after Resolve a Brainstorm, but this time that's not good at all.
Yeah, he was expecting both Sneak Attack and Emrakul to be available to him. And now he's got to restart from scratch.
Well, he does have a Ponder to get the show rolling. So we'll take a look at the top 3 cards. Red Elemental Blast among them. Looks like a Sneak Attack and a Preordained too. So Ponder is done resolving.
It's just really tough on Peter's hand the way it is right now because it seems like he's really committed to leaving up the Flusterstorm as long as he can, which I agree with, but his hand is so clogged with cantrips, it's stunning his development to some extent.
There's a swamp from Merriam, very quickly passing the turn back. Johnson will draw a card. It's another ponder. So he'll get a good look at 3 of them. And he does not like those, so he will shuffle very quickly.
Yeah, this is a person looking for Gristlebrand or Emrakul. Do it all in 1 turn. Next turn, potentially, if he draws one of his large creatures.
Mystery card coming here. Just passing the turn. Still trying to hold Flusterstorm as much as possible. Unwilling to put that shield down.
Well, Flusterstorm plus Force of Will is a lot of protection.
Here's a Lion's Eye Diamond. And just a passing the turn here for Merriam.
Yeah, I think Ross is at 8 cards in hand last turn, so he would have had to discard a hand size otherwise.
This is a preordain. Take a look at 2 of them. Emrakul's 1, Gristlebrand's the other. That's not so bad.
Okay,
Yeah.
that'll play.
The question is it time to make a move?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I don't think it's getting any better.
It's a show and tell. And if you're familiar with Storm, no counter spells here. Sneak attack's going to come in. Johnson going to sacrifice his land. Go and dig out a volcanic island, I imagine. There that is. And he knows the coast is clear for an Emrakul beatdown. And what it looks like here is Merriam's hand has just not come together at all this game.
Yeah, well, I think it's the absence of discard. He knows he can't go for it just yet because he's been having to beat Force of Will and Flusterstorm now for a while. There's no action to be taken until he finds him discard. He's just found more mana, and Peter can do this knowing that Ross does not have a good response.
Annihilator 6, 5 by permanence.
And Ross does go to 2. And if Peter has no follow-up, then he gets some opportunity to try to rebuild.
It's not impossible.
We've seen crazier stuff before in exactly this scenario, but things are looking grim for Ross, especially given the quality of Peter's hand.
I've had to do a cartwheel because of it.
Correct.
So I am well aware of what is possible from the Sneak and Show deck as far as its inability to cooperate. It is rather rare. Flooded Strand the draw. Time to go cantripping. Overmaster. Do a ponder 2. Overmaster going to go to the bottom. Other card will stay on top. So Periodon's done resolving. There is ponder. So another shot at it here for Johnson. Take a look at 3 of them. It looks like one of them is what the doctor ordered. There is Emrakul. There is the W. Peter Johnson going to win game number 1 here over Ross Merriam. Merriam still digging. Clearly did not find what he was looking for as Sneak and Show is up a game here over Storm.
And in a matchup that I feel is pretty solid for Sneak and Show for some of the reasons that you saw. Peter has the ability to execute a combo that it's hard for Ross to interact with. On top of that, Peter has counter spells to keep Ross off of what he's trying to do. Tough mixture.
I agree. We'll turn our attention to the sideboard here. We'll start with Merriam. 2 Xantid Swarms, 3 Carpet of Flowers, 3 Abrupt Decays, 2 Chain of Vapor. And up to the Warrens, a Pyroclasm, a Tropical Island, and 2 copies of Massacre.
I can get behind the Xantid Swarms here because Peter's only interaction is counter spells. And I think the 2 copies of Chain of Vapor is a borderline addition to the deck. But I do like the Xantid Swarms.
Other side of things here for Johnson, he's got 2 Defense Grid, 2 Graf Digger's Cage, 2 Pithing Needle, 2 Omniscience, 2 Through the Breach, a Wipe Away, an Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite, 2 Pyroclasms, and a Besaiger who shelters them all.
So I like bringing in the copy of Omniscience here because I don't think Peter wants to be on turn delay. I think he wants to be winning the turn that he does what he's trying to do. So show and tell may not be as good if he has to go off through Emrakul. Past that, I think the 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage are okay here, as Peter has limited interaction and something that keeps Ross off of Pass and Flames at the least. But the rest of this, not very attractive.
Fair enough. Quick update for you guys on another match. We're assuming we'll have time to jump there, but game 1 has just ended, and Daryl Ayers has won game 1 over David Long. That means the Teamer Delver and Kurt Ape up a game over Lands. Wow. Bias reporting.
And if he gets to the finals, you know, 2 good matchups waiting for him in Sneak and Show and Storm.
I think that's true.
Yeah, I think he'll take him. I think he'll take him.
Kurt Ape looking to take a trophy home here in 2015. I expected maybe our Modern Open for that to happen, but not in Legacy.
One of the first tempo decks in Magic's history was a deck called Monkey May I, and that was Kurt Apes backed up by counterspells. There is a history here. There is a precedent. Do your homework. It's all cyclical. Metagames are all cyclical.
I refuse to believe that was the name of the deck.
Oh, yeah.
Monkey May I?
Yeah. Kurt Apes, Gorilla Shamans, counterspells of various sorts.
Who played this deck?
I don't remember who.
We need a little sourcing here.
I'm sure it was Mark Justice or one of those back in the day masters.
This is way back when.
Way back. I mean, this predates me by several years.
I'm only a little dubious because the deck name is very good.
Well, back then, I think there were, naming decks was more of a craft than it is now.
I agree. Monkey May I is a delight. See, I think the best deck names have revolved around animals.
Pretty much. Zoo is great.
Dumbo Drop.
Dumbo Drop, great deck name.
Not entirely sure Snake Tongue counts, but I like that deck name.
That's a horrendous deck name.
Wow. Tough crowd here, folks.
It's true.
This is what I have to deal with 40 weeks of the year. Mm-hmm. I think something's sweet, and I'm told immediately before I can finish the sentence that it's terrible.
You signed the contract too, man. You knew exactly what this was about.
I did. There's really no getting out of it either. It's ironclad. I'm stuck. What's wrong with Snake Tongue?
Just pretty lame.
Why?
It has Mystic Snake and Flint Tongue Kavu, is that why?
Hey, it's just a good name.
Not feeling it.
Fine. Call it Teamer Tongue. How about that?
Better.
Good.
This is better.
Good. Working my way up. That was a real deck.
Sort of.
Talking about.
It refused. It didn't influence the Pro Tour the way it was expected to after its performance at New Jersey States.
It's too bad. It's too bad.
First and second place. Only 2 people in the room playing the deck.
Who? Anyone I know?
John Sonny, Craig Krempels.
I know both those people.
Yep. They broke
Nice.
it. They broke it for New Jersey States.
Nice. That's impressive stuff. I didn't know that.
Little piece of New Jersey history.
Yeah, always finding a way to get New Jersey into this broadcast.
What's that? I mean, you are the one who brought up Snake Tongue, my friend. That was not me.
Someone say Game 2's underway?
I believe you did.
Looks like it is. Ross Merriam taking a look at his opening hand. He's happy enough with it. Peter Johnson currently up a game. He's going to keep as well. Merriam with the Xanthus Swarm. You got a feeling he'd bring these in.
I think so. Peter, his only interaction really is counterspells. He can't kill this thing unless he's brought in his pyroclasms. So it seems like a good place to start.
Grafdigger's Cage. Going to try to slow down the Pass and Flames kill.
I'm skeptical of this kind of card against Storm because I think when you're not taxing their life total, it's trivial for them to go off through ad nauseum. But sometimes their draw just is what it is, and they have to go off through Pass and Flames. It's nice to have a cage.
Xanthus Swarm, one of my favorite sideboard cards.
I can never get behind these kind of cards because they just feel like mulligans to me, but I understand in some matchups they're extremely powerful.
Sometimes you got to force through the Goblin Charbelcher, man.
Ah, that's true.
In this case, Miriam's trying to force through a Tendrils of Agony. Brainstorm here for Johnson. Excuse me, a preordain. I do apologize. And just a passing of the turn. Gonna go back Merriam's way. In come the bees. I don't think we're going to play very many more turns of this game.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's had its twists and its
It
turns.
sure has.
But it's the third turn of the game, and it's gone on for far too long.
Inferno Tutor on the stack. Crack both these Lion's Eye diamonds. Pass and Flames will be discarded. Now again, Pass and Flames is not the route that Merriam can go here. It's going to have to be the ad nauseum show.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, Ross has a way to get Grafdigger's Cage off the table and then can go through the graveyard.
He would have had to bring in his Abrupt Decays, and I feel like in this sort of matchup, he's better served going off through ad nauseum than trying to mess around with bringing in Abrupt Decays to answer Grafdigger's Cage to keep Pass and Flames alive.
Plus, his life total in this matchup is not under duress.
Exactly. He's going to be either... he has two modes, alive or dead. He's not taking little pieces of damage along the way.
Ross has 1 blue mana floating here. Spells, 5 of them. And as long as ad nauseum cooperates, his Dark Rituals where we'll begin. Empty the Warrens will bring him down to 15. Probe will bring him down to 14. Petal's fine. Probe makes it 13. Brainstorm makes it 12. Cabal Ritual makes it 10. Therapy makes it 9. Ponder will make it 8. Ponder will make it 7. Ritual will make it 5. Well, he needs his Infernal Tutor to wrap it up. All right, doesn't look like he wants to keep going, but he will. 3.
This, I imagine, is where we pump the brakes.
I think you're correct. Though he doesn't want to, doesn't seem too thrilled about this.
Well, I think he has the opportunity now to just cast a bunch of rituals, make a bunch of goblins, cast Cabal Therapy to get, a troublesome card out of the hand, something that could potentially kill him.
He can also work his way into an Infernal Tutor with these Ponders and Probes, even though he can only play 1 probe for free.
I think it's one of those spots where he wants to use the spare mana he has, what he identifies as spare mana, to cast cantrips to maybe find an easier kill, and failing that, try to empty out.
Well, he very quickly kept with his Ponder, so now he's casting all his Ritual, which leads me to believe, okay, it's not Infernal Tutor, it's actually just Tendrils of Agony, and that'll get the job done. Ross Merriam going to win game number 2 here over Peter Johnson. Storm and Sneak and Show headed to a 3rd one here. Things got a little bit interesting, but able to get the job done.
Yeah, Xanadu Swarm's a really powerful sideboard card in this matchup because Peter, all he can do is flush the Storm and Force of Will things, or kill faster. Ross is going to kill faster on average than Peter is. What the edge Peter has is Ross can't really interact with him that effectively, and Xanadu Swarm is something where it makes it pretty much equal in effectiveness of how they can interact with each other, but Ross gets to exploit the fact that he's a bit faster.
It is scary when his Antiswarm shows up right away because Peter's plan of Force of Will and other permission, well, that's right off the table. So if I'm him, I may consider Pyroclasm after board. It's not pretty, but it is a counter for Xantiswarm.
I think that you've seen Empty the Warrens, and you've seen Xanadu Swarm. So I probably would rather have Pyroclasm than, let's say, Grafdigger's Cage, if I had to choose between the two.
He's just proven he can beat Grafdigger's Cage.
Easily.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I would want to probably board it out. A little recency bias there, but when my opponent beats a sideboard card that I drew, then I reevaluate
And
things.
I've never seen Grafdigger's Cage be good against Storm. I see it drawn a lot. I think that if you're beating them down and you're putting in the spot where ad nauseum is a dicey proposition, Grafdigger's Cage may be okay. But in this kind of matchup where Peter is not taxing his life total, ad nauseum is going to be a very reliable way for Ross to win the game.
Yeah, rarely do you see a Grafdigger's Cage come into play and the Storm player panics, or I have to work through this thing before I can go off. A card like Melee Mage, that'll happen. But
Yeah.
Grafdigger's Cage, not so much.
I mean, if you're clocking them with Delvers and Meddling Mages or Nakadals or something like that, I can get behind Grafdigger's Cage. But just sitting out on the board in play with no pressure, I do not think it's particularly good against Storm. And now that you know that you've seen Xanadu Swarm, now that you've seen Empty the Warrens also, that Ross brought that in, I like bringing in Pyroclasm.
Oh, game number 3 here between these players. Do you see the sideboards available for them? I don't think a ton is going to change, though. Again, if we were in Peter Johnson's seat, I think Pyroclasm would be in our deck. We'll see if he's changed anything up here for game 3. Perhaps he already has Pyroclasm in and just didn't draw it.
Maybe you could also bring in the Ellis Norn. I mean, it seems kind of mopey, but it does answer the same cards in the same way.
It's on the border for me.
Yeah, I'm not
It's right on
saying,
the border.
it depends, you know, how good is your 59th and 60th card.
Yeah.
But there are more tools that Peter can go to try to fight Xantis Ward and empty the warrants.
I don't know if he needs to go that deep.
Yeah, it's just another option afforded to him. I think it's probably bad, but if your borderline cards maybe are worse than Elishnorn, it is possible.
Both players present their deck. They'll shuffle each other's. And we'll see what happens here in game 3. Game number 1 on the other side. Well, we already know what happened there. Daryl Ayers did win game number 1 over David Long. Ayers playing Team Delver with Kurt Ape over Nimble Mongoose so that he can play Treasure Cruise in his deck. Something he did at Grand Prix, New Jersey to some success. Currently up a game over David Long, playing lands, as Long always does. And Long was able to make it through a bad matchup in Omnitel. It looks like he's having trouble with what we believe is a good matchup.
Down a game, although we haven't heard an update in a while, which typically, not always, typically means it's good for lands.
Yes, the longer it goes, the better it is.
The sleeper hold gets tightened.
Yeah. Well, there you go. The
Wow.
sleeper hold. What happens when in wrestling when they break it and the crowd really starts getting into it?
There's got to be some term for that.
And then they rally, and then Daryl super kicks him in the face, and it's all over. Because that's what happened.
2-0. Really impressive stuff.
Unbelievable. I thought he was going to get crushed. Actually.
Me too.
Without Nimble Mongoose, I thought he was going to get crushed. Well, Daryl's going to play the winner of this match right here. So congratulations to him. Very impressive. Craig's one match away from a legacy trophy.
Unbelievable. Been so long.
It's 2015, right?
It's 2015.
Okay, I just want to make sure. It's a ponder here for Johnson. Well, Ponder is done resolving. There's a Graph Digger's Cage. Here's a Lotus Petal. He's going to cash this in right now to play a cage.
You've got to believe that Ross is capable of killing on turn 1 with Past in Flames.
To use a Lotus for that,
Yeah.
I agree. Here's the hand. It's a City of Traders, a Preordain, a Brainstorm, and a Gristlebrand. It's an aggressive use of the cage, to say the least. Unwilling to wait. And having to use a Lotus Petal to facilitate it. But he believes it's very powerful in this matchup.
It means that Peter, I think to rationalize that play, it means Peter himself also has to have an extremely explosive opening hand. Whatever he saw with that Ponder believes he can facilitate a very fast kill.
Here's a Brainstorm from Merriam. Take a look at 3. And of course, he'll have to put 2 of them back.
The risk with this line of play, besides potentially being short on mana, is that if Ross fires back with discard spells, Peter may just not have enough resources to work with.
Yeah.
He needs mana plus his lick and stick of a thing to put into play plus the thing to put into play with. And using a Lotus Petal to get Graph Digger's Cage in play means that duresses and Cabal therapies can be really bad for Peter.
If you're Ross, that has to give you a little bit of scare, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
He's using a Lotus Petal to put cage in play. What's next? And now he's got an idea of what's in his hand, and he knows what's next, which is potentially a turn 2 show and tell. Brainstorm done resolving. Johnson drawing. And it's not a show and tell. It looks like it's a copy of Flusterstorm, so here's a Brainstorm. This could go badly if there's no fetch line there, and there's not.
I'm not sure if this is necessarily a winning line, but by playing the Lotus Petal, he gave up on the opportunity to go City of Traders, put Sneak Attack, cross your fingers, hope to get the next turn. Now he's Brainstorm blocked without sufficient mana to get to Sneak Attack, and Ross has this turn unchecked to do whatever he wants.
Johnson does have a copy of Preordain in his hand, so he can move, one of the cards from the Brainstorm that's play something back to the bottom and get some looks at some fresh stuff. But I agree. This is a very risky line of play here from Peter Johnson. Here's a brainstorm yet again. So 3 cards coming here from Merriam. And Ross knows he needs to get a move on. He doesn't know what's coming, but given the way that Peter has played these first couple of turns, if I'm Ross over there, I'm thinking, all right, I gotta get going.
And it looks like he is. I mean, usually when Ross has acted decisively with his fetch lands, it means he's looking to go for it. And he knows that this turn is, you know, coast is basically clear. Can't do it through pass influence, but as we saw in game 2, that doesn't necessarily matter.
No. Is it a discard spell? It's like a Taxian Probe. He wants to see if the coast is clear, perhaps. Maybe this gives him more information on what to name with Cabal Therapy. Either way, you see the hand here of Flusterstorm, Preordained, Sneak Attack, Bristlebrand, and a City of Traders. Merriam going to write all these cards down, and then he will draw a card. The ghost is clear as it's ever been.
And he can also deduce that there's no land coming from Peter because he would have played a non-City of Traders land last turn.
Absolutely. This is a Cabal Therapy. And he will name Sneak Attack. Johnson will draw a card. It's a copy of Bristlebrand. And now here's Preordained. So take a look at a couple. They're both going to go to the bottom. And now he will draw a card. Looks like it's a copy of Omniscience, I believe. And pass the turn back. Merriam will untap his 2 lands. He'll draw. Looks like Dark Ritual was one of them.
Remember, Ross has no counter spells in his deck, so I think he absolutely, positively wants to go for the kill if he can. Peter's shield's largely down. There is a mystery draw step on top of whatever happened with that Preordain.
He's going to start with a Dark Ritual. That's good to go. Now here's a Cabal Therapy. We'll see what he wants to name here.
I think he's aiming Force of Will and going for it is my prediction.
No cards taken. He did name Force of Will. 2 spells cast. Gonna sacrifice Polluted Delta. There might be a storm brewing here, Mr. Sullivan.
I think so.
Gotta get yourself a tropical island.
Yeah, not bothering to get a volcanic because, again, Pass in Flames is not afforded to him with the Graphiger's Cage in play. And the Tropical Island allows him to cast Ancient Swarm in case something weird happens.
There's a Lotus Petal and a Lion's Eye Diamond. Storm count moving up. Now it's Ad Nauseam. Stack it, crack it. 3 mana floating. 5 spells have been cast.
It's a lot to work with.
Yes, sir. Ritual bring him down to 13. Cabal Ritual bring him down to 11. Let's make it 7. How about 5? Still at 5. He may stop here as he does a little bit of math.
I mean, this does allow him to just empty for a ton.
Empty the Warrens has messed things up a little bit, though. He's going into math mode. He's happy with this. Dark Ritual. Cabal Ritual, of course, with Threshold. Petal. cracking that. And he may have enough mana to play Empty, Infernal Tutor, and Tendrils of Agony. Yep.
It's a nice luxury.
There are worse places to be.
20 goblins and 26 points of burn or whatever.
I see what he's going to do. He's going to get a Cabal Therapy here, so not enough. But what he can do is he's going to get a Cabal Ritual, as we have quite a few goblins on hand. So that's nice. And he can shred the grip. Force of Will to draw. And Peter Johnson will extend the hand. Ross Merriam going to win this match here over Peter Johnson. 2-1. Storm moving on to the finals. And Merriam and Stephen Daryl Errors will do battle.
A huge win for Ross, putting himself in a position to win the whole thing here, jump up to first place on the leaderboard, and proving in games 2 and 3 that Grafdigger's Cage is no big shakes.